the Orient. Even in difficult times, the yearning for the beauty and the mystery of the East is undiminished. But many places in Iran and Uzbekistan draw few visitors. Travelers are deterred by supposed dangers. But for that reason, a journey from Isfahan to Samarkand through hidden deserts and mountains remains one of the great dream routes for friends of the Orient. It is a legendary journey. The road to the most famous cities of the Orient. From Isfahan to Mashad and on to Bukhara and Samarkand is more than 2,200 kilometers long. Our journey begins in Isfahan, the home of many ruling dynasties. Safavids, Sassanids, Seljuks, Mongols and Arabs have all left their traces in Iran, where minarets and the domes of mosques and madrasas abound. The colors, ornamentation, and calligraphies on the huge Imam Square, once known as the King Square, immerse the visitor in a strange but enchanting world. Isfahan is a magnet for pilgrims from all over the country. Foreigners too are drawn here to the Islamic Republic of Iran. Some harbor fears, which a young graduate from the religious school, a mullah by the name of Muhammad, impressively dispels.
In Arabic language it says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم سيروا في الأرض وانظر كيف عاقبة المكذبين. It means travel in the earth and look at what happened in the history for someone who reject and deny truth. And I think it's a really great point when you travel in everywhere, in all over the world. Just look at the history, what happened to them, what happened to the people in the past. Some kings, some ordinary people who followed the truth, who reject that, and it's a great verse about that. I can tell you, you have heard lots of things about Islam, lots of things about Iran. Iran is very dangerous, lots of explosion. Muslim people are terrorists, they always carry some knife. And I can tell you, look at me, I'm Iranian and even I studied in seminary school. And here is Iran. Here is in the middle of the Iran, in Isfahan. And I will tell you something, you cannot reject that. Iran is the safest place in the Middle East. Yeah, and the only way to prove it is come Iran and look at how is Iran.
The river that should normally flow through Isfahan and link its historic bridges is called Zayanda Rud, the river of life. But because of drought, the water is pumped off to other parts of the country, an indication of the growing ecological problems Iran is facing. But even without water, Isfahan's bridges from the Safavid era are still among the great attractions of Persian architecture, reminders of the heyday of Oriental art and culture along the Silk Road. And in Isfahan, church bells still ring out in the Armenian quarter even today. In addition to a Jewish community, Isfahan offered craftsmen and artists from Christian countries a home. Oriental tolerance. Located in the bazaar is the studio of Mr. Okavat, a master of the ancient Persian art of miniature painting. He draws his motifs from the love poetry written by Hafiz and Saadi. Mr. Okavat never abandoned his art even in difficult times. Even when virtually everyone stopped traveling to Iran, he remained true to his art because he says it is deeply rooted in the soul of Persia.
Iranians enjoy life and love poems about flowers and nightingales. Their favorite poets are Hafiz and Saadi, whose verse is extremely sensitive and full of emotion. This sensitivity is the reason why people like these miniatures, enjoy poetry and sing the poems of Hafiz and Saadi. Just as this art was able to survive difficult times over 1,000 years, it will continue to survive in the future. Because people need this art and the joy it gives them.
Nearby is another store which is linked to Iran's ancient image. Here, Mr. Hasim sells Persian carpets. Along with Aladdin's magic lamp, carpets are the classic symbols of the Orient. For Mr. Hasim, carpets are far more than a commodity. They're his life.
The most interesting things about these sort of pieces are that these are nomadic pieces and they think and make. Whole the design comes from their imagination. If I show you hold my carpet, you can never find two exactly the same because they think and make. And then we have classical carpet like this style. This is a classical carpet. I mean, to make something like this, there is pattern, design. They look and they make. You don't see any inconsistencies. But if we go through these, are full, and that's the beauty of the carpet, that they made it with love and they made it with heart. And I'm very proud of telling this that I'm an Iranian carpet dealer because it's the third biggest business after petrol and gas. A carpet like this, it takes at least a year to make it. Unfortunately, it's getting less and less because people, they prefer to work in factories and earn some money and not to spend a couple of months.
Our journey through Iran begins. It takes us into the desert from Isfahan to Yazd. Day and night, heavy trucks thunder over the well-constructed roads, taking goods from the Arabian Sea to all corners of the country. The hallmark of Yazd are its towers of silence, which date back to the days of the Zoroastrian fire cult. In ancient Iran, the bodies of deceased followers of Zarathustra were laid out for wild birds to feed on. The remains were then swept into a pit at the center of each tower. Zoroastrian fire temples can still be seen all over the country. The one in Yazd is particularly beautiful. The teachings of Zarathustra were the widespread religion in Persia 800 years before Christ, and long before Arab invaders brought Islam into the country. Today, the flame of the ancient religion is tolerated more than Islamic minorities, dervishes, or Sufis. There are many traces of history in Yazd. In the past, desert cities everywhere were cooled and ventilated with wind towers. Ancient Khanats provided an underground supply of water via pipes and channels. The town is a busy place. Schoolgirls visit mosques and madrasas with their teachers, Islamic religious instruction, so to speak. Their fathers are busy elsewhere. In the mornings, men of all ages wearing sports shirts and shorts gather to pray. To the sound of drums, dozens of men start to perform gymnastic exercises in a ritual training program known as Zohane. Zohane too dates back to pre-Islamic times and has remained an institution through to the present day. The ceremony is led by the drummer Ali Reza Hajafi.
People in Persia love and respect this form of sport. They practice it because they see it as a timeless legacy from their forefathers. It's a kind of monument to the physical training of bygone days. This is a martial tradition that has been handed down from our ancestors. People enjoy this form of sport, but because it is difficult, not everyone is able to perform the strength exercises.
The warming-up program is followed by work with clubs. The size and weight of the clubs used depends on the age and physical condition of each participant. It's a training program for male associations that can be compared with the Turner movement in Europe. People kept fit without weapons, especially in times when superior forces from Arabia occupied the country. The songs being sung today are in honor of Ali, the Prophet's son-in-law.
The youth must accept the experience of those who are older, and they must pass on the doctrine of consideration and care for others to the younger generation. They must teach them how to look after the community. This is the only sport that can be performed in every age group. It combines both religion and character development.
Exercising with heavy iron bows indicates the old paramilitary character of Zohane. In the concluding whirling dance, each participant shows his agility and power of expression. This can even lead to the trance-like state which, in the past, characterized the dervishes. Our journey continues along busy motorways. Today, because of the long embargo imposed by the West, many goods enter Iran by land and sea from China and India. Changes on an ancient trade route which takes us from Yazd to Kerman. The focal point of every historic town in Iran is the bazaar, which also usually embraces tea houses, bathhouses and mosques. Life here pulsates, and the range of goods on offer enables conclusions to be drawn as to the situation in the country. On markets in Iran, cheap goods from China dominate and are displacing local handicrafts. But for many young families on a low income, this is a blessing. Shortly before Nowruz, the Persian New Year, every family buys 7 talismans known as haft sim. A sales assistant explains the symbolism.
This is a special table decoration which we call Sofre-i Haft-Sin, the table with the 7 symbols. Just as St. Nicholas heralds the advent of Christmas in other countries, we have Haji Firuz and Nane Sama. Nane Sama comes to every town and ends the coldness of winter. The cultural symbols of our new year are seer, garlic, sikar, vinegar, sib, apple, somar, spicy fruit, senched, mulberry or dried olives, and samanu, a sweet pudding made from wheat. Each of these symbols stands for something. Seer, garlic, for health and well-being. Sikar, vinegar, for a long life and patience. Sib, apple, for loving care and the beautiful image of planting an apple seed in the ground and one day harvesting apples from a tree. Senched, the wild olive or mulberry, stands for love and compassion.
A decorative goldfish as a gift is also an absolute must. Iran and the entire Orient are covered by a network of tombs where Sufi saints were laid to rest. Shah Nematollah Valley was a Sufi master, and his shrine near Kerman is visited by large numbers of pilgrims. Islamic law in Iran regards Sufism as a form of superstition. However, the tombs of the saints are tolerated. After all, the Sufis were mediators between popular beliefs and incoming Islam. Today, the dervishes of Shah Nematollah Valley are scattered worldwide, and the order is led from London. Our journey is becoming more and more of an adventure with snow-covered mountains, high passes, and salt deserts by the roadside. There are over 50 arid regions in Iran, and the Lut Desert is the biggest, hottest, and most desolate collection of sand and salt in the country. It's also part of the world's natural heritage. In summer, temperatures of up to 70 degrees Celsius have been recorded here. The Lut Desert is famous for the mystical sand formations created solely by wind and erosion, the Kalouts, as they're known. Strangers rarely venture into this hostile and sparsely populated region. But on the edge of the desert, we encounter human life once again. A camel breeder looking after his animals. During the daytime, the camels roam freely. At night, they're tethered again in the vicinity of the village. The animals are fed roots, which have been dug out of the sand and seem to be very tasty. The camel breeder examines his animals for any possible injuries or bite wounds. He also frees them from the biggest and most annoying plague in the desert, ticks. Mohammed told us about his life here.
The region here is really arid because it hardly ever rains. So to feed the camels, I have to buy straw, barley and other things. Even so, you can still live well here as a camel breeder. If only God would let more rain fall. But spring will soon be here. Then this is a paradise for breeders and camels. The animals provide us with good milk, and there's a big demand for their meat, which fetches high prices. What is more, the camels are used to people. They are tame, so you can ride them and take part in races. Most of the villagers keep their own camels and sheep. There is also a bit of agriculture here, mainly cereals and dates. The best profit is made from selling dates. But the powerful wind and storms in the desert are a problem. Harvests are affected and sometimes even destroyed. Otherwise, there are more than enough dates to be gathered here.
The name of the village is Des Salm. The central government has provided bricks for every household. It is March, and people here find the pleasant 28-degree temperature rather fresh. In summer, it gets twice as hot. The New Year festival is approaching, and in keeping with tradition, every household washes its carpets beforehand. Women in the desert wear bright colours, a pleasant contrast to the black garments seen in the towns. But before filming these women, you first need the permission of their husbands or fathers. In Des Salm, there is a modern workshop where carpets are woven. It's available to all the women, so anyone who has the time can work here. The money earned from selling the carpets is shared out. This is highly unusual, and the result of work by an Iranian foundation which is striving to improve the quality of life of women in the countryside. The women are open, but shy and reserved when addressed. They don't want to say the wrong thing to visitors from abroad, so it takes a while before we can start up a conversation.
The women in the village work just as hard as the men. There is no difference. The day begins with household duties. The women make dough and bake bread. Afterwards, they go to the fields and cut grass for the sheep. Only then do they go on to the weaving shop and make mats and carpets. Women here show a lot of commitment. They really work hard. The villagers are hospitable and curious as well. They get the accommodation ready and go to great lengths in preparing the food. They like foreign visitors and take good care of them. I don't really know what else to say.
Mrs. Mohammadi is self-confident and not a bit shy. She doesn't have a husband to tell her what she can and can't do, and her brother doesn't interfere either. Persian women are self-assured, but in the countryside, fathers, brothers and husbands are far more dominant than in the towns and cities. From time immemorial, bread has been baked with the simplest of means in an earth oven. Every village, every region has a slightly different style. Sometimes the loaf is thicker, sometimes longer. But above all, it is the different decoration and texture that show where a loaf comes from. The daily demand for bread is huge. It's eaten at every meal, preferably oven fresh and crispy. Iran is 4 times the size of Germany and full of history. Like here by the roadside, excavation sites can be seen everywhere. This, for example, is a 400-year-old clay-built city from Safavid times. Even a layman can easily recognize traces of cultural achievements. Wind towers, sewage and water supply systems, pagodas, defensive walls, and caravanserais. Wherever you go and whatever you see, as a traveler in Iran, from day to day, your respect grows for the history and culture of an ancient people. We're approaching an important city on the Silk Route. Mashad is a commercial center and the holiest place of Shiite Islam on Iranian soil. Every year, more than 30 million pilgrims travel to Mashad to visit the mausoleum of Imam Reza. The tomb is also of enormous commercial importance. Pilgrims stay in hotels, go shopping, make donations, and very often bequeath their entire estate to the shrine. This is one reason for the vast wealth of Iran's second biggest city. The holy precinct around the tomb of the 8th Imam Reza is well guarded. Every pilgrim tries to linger here for as long as possible. Being allowed to experience without prejudice members of another religion on their most important pilgrimage is a memorable experience. Journeying on towards Bukhara and Samarkand, we reach Uzbekistan. The mountains of Uzbekistan are just bidding farewell to winter, and spring has yet to arrive. People are yearning for warmer days and are preparing to celebrate the new season with the Nowruz festival. In Iran, this spring festival lasts for 10 days. In Uzbekistan, everything is focused on just one day. Using sprouting winter barley, oil, flour, and walnuts, women in the villages spend many hours preparing a dish called sumalak. It is a tradition that is said to go back to the Mongol Khan Timur. The neighbors already gather in the early morning to stir the mass in a large vat and boil it. The mood is cheerful and getting increasingly exuberant. In the afternoon, after many hours, the sumalak has the right consistency and can be dished out as the official food at the New Year festival. By now, celebrations are taking place everywhere. Uzbekistan is not an Islamic republic, and women are allowed to dance and rejoice in public. The state-organized New Year celebration for the surrounding towns and villages takes place in the middle of the countryside. Uzbekistan's most expensive pop stars have been hired. They charge up to $6,000 to perform at weddings. It's an official festival for the whole family, positioned somewhere between folklore and pop, between the traditional and the modern. For more than 2 generations, Uzbekistan was a Soviet republic. It is not only at the New Year's festival that the behavior patterns of that epoch are still visible. The men and boys in the mountains celebrate New Year in the traditional way, with a wild equestrian game known as Bukhara. A tractor transports a dead sheep into the steppe, and each rider tries to take possession of it. The rules are simple. It's illegal to hit someone in the face, insult an opponent, or drink vodka. However, only serious violations are punished. Injuries are part of the course. A commentator whips up the contest and praises the riders bringing back the sheep. Besides prestige, money and other prizes beckon. The passion for this sport seems infinite, and the contests go on for hours. The sumalak now has the right consistency. The dish is honoured, and the anticipation of enjoying this special New Year's pudding can be felt everywhere. Something that has been cooking for so long must be good, and the Mongol Khans saw sumalak as a source of energy and protection against illness. Nothing wrong with having a quick taste. The New Year's dish is distributed to every household and every family member. The taste is strange, a bit like bittersweet beer with nutty starch. But at all events, for people here, it is a long-awaited delicacy. In Uzbekistan, we have been invited by a family that has been living in the Sufi tradition for generations and is thus closer to Oriental law than normal Uzbeks. We're taking tea with the family of herbal doctor Sufi Tabib. He has a young wife and young children, but also grown-up sons. We try to understand what he does and how he lives. In the tradition of educated Orientals, he responds to our questions in French.
Je traite les hommes chaque jour.
I see my mission in helping people. I care for many who are not well, up to 200 patients a day. We collect herbs for treatment purposes all year round. My children also help. At the same time, I live and spread the philosophy of the Sufis. My particular school of Sufism is Nosafardia, which also integrates modern elements of Sufi doctrine.
On our way to Bukhara, Sufi Tabib and his son Ulugh Beg are showing us an ancient Sufi and Muslim site, which was even visited during the Soviet era. In those days, religion and spirituality were regarded as reactionary. Many traditions only survived in secret. This place holds a special significance for our hosts, and there is a reason for it.
Cette place s'appelle Quatre Frères.
This place is called Four Brothers. Why Four Brothers? Islam has its own explanation. But I know that the name Four Brothers refers to Sufism and three religions: Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Why do I enjoy coming to the Four Brothers so much? I first came here in 1984 during the Soviet era. The site looked like a ruin. There were no proper buildings, just a pile of rubble. Nevertheless, we kept coming back here because I felt the good energy of our ancestors and the Sufis. And that is why I chose this place.
The two men allow us to watch them engage in the prayer ritual of the Sufis in a meditation retreat. It consists of rhythmically performed prayer mantras, a kind of vocal respiration which quickly leads to a trance-like state. Established Islam sees this as pure shamanism and superstition, but for Sufis, this form of prayer is the core of their religious practice.
In Sufism, this meditation is known as zikr. So there are breathing exercises, physical exercises, gymnastics, and zikr. It's a complex system. Why do we practice zikr? All Sufis practice zikr. The most important reason is to acquire the energy of God. Secondly, we want to develop inwardly, to progress towards personal perfection, to feel spirituality, and if the prerequisites exist, to aspire to divine knowledge.
For Sufi Tabib, martial arts are just as much a part of the exercise program as gymnastics, meditation, nutrition, cosmetics, calligraphy, and movement in nature. What he practices as a Sufi, Tabib also prescribes for his pupils and patients. And interest is great. In Central Asia, too, many people feel out of balance and are searching for answers. Sufi Tabib told us why.
La cause principale, je pense que les hommes.
In my view, people here too have begun to live in the modern world. They sit in their cars. They eat a lot. They don't do any physical activity or breathing exercises. But the greatest problem, I feel, is that they are losing spirituality. Their link with divine energy is tenuous. People can no longer absorb the breath of God. They cannot connect to it.
Sufi Tabib and his sons run several practices in Tashkent and Bukhara. These are located not in exclusive areas, but in prefabricated buildings where ordinary people live. Patients often come from neighboring countries. In the style of the ancient physicians of the Orient, Tabib establishes contact via the patient's pulse. He talks to his patients and shows care. As a rule, he prescribes herbal medicine, recommends movement exercises and meditation, gives dietary tips, and prescribes massages. He only does what he learned from his forefathers, he told us. There is also something else that links him to the great physician Abu Ali Sina, also known as Avicenna.
We use the great Avicenna's knowledge of the medicinal plants he studied, and no other methods. In our treatments, we rely on our ancestors, who from the 13th century on passed everything down from generation to generation. We apply their knowledge in our massages, in our brain treatments, in our use of medicinal plants, in diagnosis, and in gymnastic and breathing exercises. To complement that, and thanks to our own studies, we add a few new applications. That's all.
Located next door is the Sufi doctor's pharmacy, where patients can obtain the remedies that have been prescribed. All the medication, tinctures, teas and oils are made from Uzbek herbs and roots. They're said to be effective against virtually everything. Prices are affordable. In Uzbekistan, only the upper class can afford the expensive drugs manufactured by international pharmaceutical companies. Roots and herbs are collected all year round. In winter, certain plants are found in the deserts. In summer, Uzbekistan is full of herbs, and in autumn, herbs are harvested in the mountains. The herbs and roots are stored at central locations where they're also mixed and processed in line with ancient formulas and mixing ratios. Most of the several dozen people who work in the herb factory belong to the Sufi Tabib clan. His son Ulugh Beg is in charge here.
We have trees of generation. Sufi Tabib is 14th. I am the 15th. So Sufi Tabib knows 14th his fathers and grandfathers and grandfathers.
Finally, the medications are bottled and labelled. Many products are also sent to regular customers as far afield as Russia. The market for herbal products is booming, and in Uzbekistan, everyone is happy to have an income. The staff all eat together according to the national custom, sitting on the ground in nomad style. The table is laid with far more food than they could ever eat. Only the work uniforms are a slight reminder of former Soviet days. At one time, Bukhara was one of the great cities of the Orient, a trading center with splendid buildings. It was a place of religious tolerance. In the past, Bukhara belonged to the great Persian Empire, and the emir of Bukhara held sway over large parts of Central Asia. Sufi Tabib has brought us to the Jewish cemetery in Bukhara. He wants to remind us of the days of cultural diversity and religious tolerance, which he wishes for Uzbekistan in the future too.
Bukhara has always been a center of religion, but not just of Islam. Jews and Christians were also here. The doctrine of Sufism was also highly developed here. And why did Bukhara become a center of religion? It's because many Sufis came here, and the mental attitude was very sophisticated. Sufism accepts all religions because it has never turned against any religion. It works with religions. It tolerates religions because Sufism is found in all religions. We are here at the Jewish cemetery, and you can see how well it has been preserved here in Uzbekistan.
Bukhara still has a lively Jewish community with 2 synagogues, schools and kindergartens. However, the number of community members is steadily declining. For Jews in Uzbekistan, it is easy to emigrate to America or Israel. The final stage of our journey to the Orient takes us to Samarkand, a place of yearning and a historic center of scholarship in science and architecture. This is an important place, especially in times when some people associate the terms Orient and Islam with danger. In Samarkand, Sufi Tabib told us about the history of the region and expressed his hopes for the inspirational effect of former ties.
Up until the 16th century, Central Asia was highly developed. That was because Central Asia was the center of Sufism. All Sufi schools worldwide came here to spread their knowledge and to pursue their studies. They played a leading role in mathematics, physics, algebra, and so on. There were many sciences here, but when the official religion came to Uzbekistan, everything was destroyed.
In the 15th century, Ulugh Beg was a ruler in Samarkand who gave great service to science. The local puppet theatre still portrays the grandson of Mughal Khan, Timur, as a sensitive ruler. Ulugh Beg, in a blue cloak, a monarch for whom books and observing his beloved stars were more important than power and intrigue. In the 15th century, Ulugh Beg had this impressive observatory built in Samarkand. Today it once again receives lots of visitors. Back then, using a 40-meter-long sextant, the Oriental ruler succeeded in calculating a stellar year with little deviation from modern-day measurements. Ulugh Beg also observed hundreds of celestial bodies. This offended Islamic clergy of the day. They ended Ulugh Beg's rule and destroyed the observatory. We take our leave of the Orient. The buildings in Samarkand are again resplendent in their former beauty and are thus reconciled with the abysses of history.